landing our ship.
An expedition to the Falklands, South Georgia, and then down to the Antarctic Peninsula is truly one of the grand adventures that anyone's ever going to take. There's a wonderful serendipity to a trip like this where you find something every day that you didn't expect, even after coming, whether it's your first time or many times. The icebergs are always a surprise. We see wildlife doing behavior we've never seen before. You never know when you're going to find a pod of whales. The weather's always a challenge. We never know what we're going to find, but what we do find is always extraordinary.
Hurry, I can't wait! Holy
Well, this is our first landing of a trip in the Falkland Islands on a little island called New Island. And we're lucky that we were able to get it in and after dinner tonight. And the weather cooperated because we don't know if that's going to change or not. We have albatross, rockhopper penguins, and some shags nesting in this area. And it's a lovely spot. They're so used to people being around here. You can get very close to them without disturbing them as long as you're reasonable. You see all kinds of behaviors. There's activity going on in these colonies all the time. The rockhoppers are interacting. The albatross are calling, preening each other, doing all kinds of behaviors. So there's lots and lots to see, lots of behavior, and a really great first landing.
It's just awesome seeing all these brand new baby penguins and albatross. It's just awesome.
It's great.
Humbling. Large numbers of these beautiful creatures that are letting us get so close and almost walk right up to them. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a privilege.
That it is. It's a privilege, for sure.
Very exciting, exhilarating, dream come true.
West Point is one of my very favorite places because you get to walk right among the tussock grass. And everyone has to be careful because suddenly you'll be about to take a step and up, there is an albatross, or up, there is a penguin chick. Or we even have one albatross chick that's slapping its beak at the people passing by, making sure they don't get too close. As you see these albatross chicks, some of them are sitting alone in these huge pots that have been built by the adults. They will sit there while the adult goes out and gets food and then comes back because they're no longer so vulnerable to the Johnny Rooks or those striated caracaras that you see flying about the colony. They will be here until they molt those fuzzy gray feathers into the beautiful black and white plumage of the adults. It usually takes about 3.5 to 4 months before they're actually ready to fledge and take that first flight.
Gosh, it's like a whole new world of life and their own social habitat of birds and how they've lived on these little mounds of dirt from the time they were egg until they were a chick, and then as an adult and they come back and they start to cycle all over again. It's just fantastic.
Last night we had wind of about up to 88 miles per hour in Stanley, and the last time we had wind of that speed was in 1992. We do get a lot of wind though, but normally it's around about the 30 to the 40 mile an hour mark, not quite as much as we experienced last night. Well, we're currently in Stanley, in the Falkland Islands. Behind me is Stanley Harbour, not Port Stanley, which a lot of people want to say. The Falkland Islands is a British overseas territory. There's 3,200 people living in these islands. The majority of us are British. However, we've got quite a large Chilean and St. Helenian community living here. But in total, we've got 52 different nations, different nationalities living in the Falkland Islands, so we're quite cosmopolitan these days. The Falkland Islands is just a fantastic place to live, it's a fantastic place to visit. We enjoy meeting people from all over the world and showing them what we've got to offer. It's very relaxed, it's very easygoing, and I think on the whole, the people are quite friendly. They don't bite you that much. Spade, and in your house you would burn a cubic yard of peat a day. So you would need to cut 365 cubic yards of peat to keep your family in fuel over the winter. The fuel is free. It's just an awful lot of blood, sweat and tears, and it involved the whole family.
Well, this is pretty exciting. Our first landing in South Georgia. We're on Orion Island, named for the seabirds that nest here by the thousands, but there's another seabird we've come here specifically to see, and that's the wandering albatross. This is one of their preferred nesting sites. And a little later, we're going to walk on a fairly new boardwalk that the government set up about a decade ago, and see if we can get inland a ways and look for some nesting wandering albatrosses. So we'll come back later and be able to see that one from the other viewing platform. Let's see what we got up here. Interesting thing about this boardwalk is it now makes an easy access for the fur seals, and they're getting up into the high area for the first time ever. And you can see just this season they're now all the way to the top, and they're starting to mash down the tussock grass. And so that will affect the tussock, of course. It ends up killing the growing area on the top, and then they start sprouting from the sides of the tussock, and it changes the shape. You saw it down lower. So we've got a great view of numerous wandering albatrosses on the nests. I don't see any fledglings right now. They may have already left, and now we've just got them on eggs and tiny chicks. What a beautiful bird. Look at this thing. We also have giant petrels nesting. And you can see the difference. Next to the wandering albatrosses, these giant petrels don't look so big.
Absolutely spectacular. It is gorgeous in all aspects. Better than what we thought it was going to be.
We're looking at a skua chick, brown skua. Yeah, super cute. Yeah, despite their fearsome parents, the chicks are obviously very, very cute.
This is such a great first stop too, because there's so much here. Right here on the landing beach, we've got Gentoo penguins and king penguins, and of course lots of elephant seals and fur seals. What more could you want?
The seals are unbelievable, and got some good looks at some of the birds up on their nests on top, and absolutely tremendous landing for our first time on the Orion Island.
Here comes a pipit. Look at it, look. One of the rarest birds in the world. They're making a big comeback now because the rats have been all removed from South Georgia, and these guys are now having successful nesting in places where they haven't been seen for many decades. This is an amazing sight. People around the world would be very excited to hear that we have seen the South Georgia pipit, one of the rarest birds in the world. It's the only songbird in Antarctica. Very special little bird. It's exciting.
We have just arrived at Fortuna Bay, our first full day of expedition here at South Georgia. And we landed at the beach at Fortuna Bay, where we were greeted by a bunch of fur seals, first-year pups, very playful, very cute, and of course some king penguins. And for a lot of us, this is the first king penguins we saw greeted on the beach. Fortuna Bay for me is also very interesting as a history buff, and for reading about the Shackleton story ever since I was a boy. This was one of the areas that he thought he was going to be able to finally find other people the first time in months after being at sea, but he had to backtrack and walk up and over to the whale colony. So this is a real amazing place and a spectacular place for our first full day of South Georgia expedition.
Well, the first thing you've got to say is absolutely glorious weather. Very lucky with the weather today. And it just enhances the whole spectacle. It's mind-blowing. Seals, penguins, The whole place is alive. Utterly unique. Fabulous. What a spectacular setting.
I like the geology and just the feel of the landscape. It's rugged and it's beautiful all at the same time.
And I think I wasn't prepared for the fact that you'd see penguins in all different stages. So you see some of them molting and some of them having already finished. So it's just that variety that's really cool.
It's beautiful. It's cold, but I can't believe how lush it is. It's really green with fur seals and penguins everywhere.
Pretty unusual, huh?
Yeah, it is. With the waterfall in the background, it's gorgeous. I wasn't expecting it to be this green. Thought it would be drier.
I really wanted to see the king penguins of South Georgia Island and am so excited, and it just makes my heart soar.
Beautiful day here in Hercules. So the feature of this place, and I think we'll probably have some luck, is the macaroni penguins. It's early enough in the morning. They have to preen themselves and bathe. They need to keep those feathers in the most pristine. There it is. Here we go. We've got a bunch of them right here. These are bathing right now. So they're just bathing and doing a little preening, trying to keep their feathers really good shape. Make sure their feathers are all groomed nice so they can have the best speed available. That drag coefficient will be the best that it can be. This is nice. So you got the bunch of macaronis right here getting ready to go in.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're serving hot chocolate with or without Baileys.
Baileys in without.
Oh my. Where? I think, yeah.
All right.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Coming as a group, the kings and the macaronis together.
Grytviken, this place is famous. Famous among anyone who studies whales, and certainly it was famous in its day, 1901, when it was first built. Grytviken is sort of the second wave of whaling that happened down here in the Southern Ocean. The first happened with kettle pots and out in the various bays, any protected inlet. But after a while, as the whale stocks started to decrease, there was more interest in bringing the whales on shore and thereby using not only the blubber, but also turning the meat into a meal, boiling and grinding down the bones and turning it into fertilizer and using every aspect of these whales. Grytviken is one of the first of these whaling factories here in South Georgia. Today, the museum shows an amazing array of tools, utensils, and information about the whaling era.
It's wonderful. I don't have words for it. All I know is that I've never seen a place so pristine, so beautiful, so serene, even if it is a harsh environment. Just wonderful.
And the town itself, you know, to think of its history and the slaughter that went on here now, it's gone, and it has a quiet phase upon the place.
Yeah, back how it was before, the whaling and everything else. Yeah.
Also here, you have the gravesite of Sir Ernest Shackleton. That amazing person able to make his way in that 28-foot boat all the way from Elephant Island to South Georgia to save the lives of all of his crew. While the whaling tradition has ended, the tradition of honoring Shackleton continues on.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to give a proper toast to the boss, the inspiration for this trip, the reason why a lot of us are here, a mentor as such, and a real hero, one of the giants of Antarctic exploration. So here's to the boss.
To the boss.
Boss.
To the boss. One for the boss.
And it's appropriate to share a little bit with the boss.
Whaling station. This whaling station then became the place that you would bring your boats to be repaired. We want you to look up in the hillsides because shortly we're going to see our friends coming down from their long hike. Today there are fur seals here, believe it or not. We're going to have you leave your life vest in the bins and then follow Tom on the hike all the way up to the waterfall.
It was tough, but we did. It was great though. Really neat. I don't know if I'll do it again, but thank you.
Can I say,
Oh my gosh! I've seen this in pictures. It's just absolutely incredible. Nature just amazes me. I'm blessed to be here.
This is St. Andrews Bay, and we're looking across this valley here up towards a glacier, and it's just absolutely packed, crowded with king penguins. It's kind of sensory overload. So yeah, I'm not sure, I've never seen this many individuals of anything, you know, humans, animals, anywhere else in my entire life. So it's quite a lot to process as you're walking up here. And it's just, yeah, the amount of senses, it smells, this cacophony of sounds is incredible. And then of course this absolutely beautiful backdrop as well. It's, yeah, absolutely magical.
Cast of millions.
It's pretty overwhelming.
Lots of penguins.
I think I've seen lots of pictures of this in the past, and words can't even describe it.
Oh, this is magical.
I think it's unlike any other place on the planet. We're very lucky. We're very fortunate.
It's ridiculous.
It feels completely unreal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. The interactions between the mating pairs and the rival males.
Yeah, I love them when they flap their wings against each other like they're fighting. It's so funny. They're very entertaining.
We're climbing up through the tussock to get up onto open ground. Yeah, and we're just dodging all the fur seals. That's good fun.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, hi. I'm having a great time. Slippery is how it is, but lovely. Beautiful views.
Worth it.
Worth it. Absolutely worth
Should make the cover of National Geographic doing this at 75 years old.
No, no, no. Ah. I'm bigger than you are.
Oh, it's cool. It's very wonderful. It's spectacular. I'm flaring.
Don't let her bite you. Don't let her bite you. It's definitely.
She's under your bow. Oh, she's trying to get the rope. This is our last day in South Georgia, and we've saved the best for last. This is Gold Harbor. It's not the biggest penguin colony, but it's probably the most beautiful, at least in my mind. And we also have molting adult elephant seals here. We haven't seen many adults before, and so this is pretty darn exciting. Perfect weather.
They're huge, and they're very expressive, and they're really sweet, and almost got a little scared that two of them were almost about to bumping chests, but it's been a lot of fun watching them.
They don't seem to be the least bit worried that we're here, as compared to the fur seals who like to charge us a lot. Yeah, they just seem gentle and at ease. But I understand they've been out feeding and this is their rest time, so they're regrouping. But yeah, they're wonderful. It's just an unbelievable experience.
And we'll walk over and get closer to the king penguin nesting colony. This is the best time of the year, I think, because you have some on eggs and the little chicks are just being hatched, and you also have oakum boys, which are the chicks from last year that overwintered and they're now fledging, and there's a lot of activity.
It's a little sad to be leaving. I mean, it's absolutely incredible out here. But I'm looking forward to the Antarctic Peninsula.
We have left South Georgia, heading down to Antarctica, which is our last destination for this voyage. We are now traveling to Elephant Island. We've had gusty winds up to 44 knots from the northwest. We had waves up to 20 feet plus. And these are the areas where icebergs tend to show up. And that's why we keep a sharp lookout for small pieces of ice in order to avoid it, to avoid any collision with ice. No one was allowed outside in these conditions. That's for our own safety and the safety of the crew.
Doug? Yes, Doug, go ahead. So, is it possible I get 3 more Zodiacs? Yes, you can. That's possible. Both, Captain Richie.
Yeah, Doug, we're setting up the stern lander, so it's going to take a few more minutes.
Watch your back in that cove because the swells pick up, you'll get some sets that will dump that boat right on the beach. So just watch your back in there.
All right, folks.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome to Elephant Island. So after 2 exciting days crossing the Scotia Sea, the same sea that Shackleton and his men crossed to get to safety on South Georgia, we've done it reverse and we're here at beautiful Elephant Island. We've got a dramatic, exciting day of swell and rain, and it really kind of gives you a sense of what Shackleton and his men were up against when they landed back here all those years ago. Yeah, so can you imagine coming here? They didn't make it over here, but imagine coming over here after months and a winter on the sea ice, and then you're cruising through and trying to find yourself a landing. Well, looking at it the way we look at it, it is quite beautiful. But if you look at it from the sense of having to camp and live off the land, I think you'd have a completely different perspective, of course. For me, this is super amazing. Every time I'm in the peninsula and in Antarctica, going to these historic locations, I just love to think of what these explorers were up to. It's just one more layer of this amazing place and all these amazing stories that happen here.
I would describe this as immense, huge. Where did it come from? Why is it here? I'm just flabbergasted. It can't be described. You have to see it in person. Yeah, you have to come with Lindblad to see this in Antarctica. Incredible. Incredible. Fabulous.
Well, it looked like
21 times 8
times 8
nautical miles. That's what I
what? I googled it, and then it said 21 times 8 nautical miles.
Well, I think last time we measured 18. But
Maybe
18
it's small enough. It's still big.
still big.
Yeah.
Still big.
All right, well, let's go see on this beautiful day what we can find. We have a few Adelie penguins over here on this piece of ice. The really amazing thing to me right now is there are a lot of young penguins out here. They've already fledged, it looks like. These are young birds. You can see they don't have the full dark on their face. It's like half and half. And when you see an adult, you'll see that their heads are all dark.
They're fabulous.
It's fantastic. Can't believe all the beautiful ice we're seeing.
So we have two seals here. The one on the left is a Weddell seal and the one on the right is a fur seal. But this is pretty lucky to have both a fur seal and a Weddell on one piece of ice. So.
We've just touched down in Antarctica and our first landing on the Antarctic Peninsula, so we're on the continent proper. It's a beautiful place. This is the Brown Bluff, and you can see why it's called that. It's rock composed of volcanic ash, so it's beautiful layered brown rock which looks stunning against the blue skies today. But the real key feature here that we're interested in is the penguins, and we've got two species. The Adelies, smaller penguins, their chicks are pretty much ready to go. They're born first and reared faster, and then the Gen 2 chicks are really funny at the moment. They still have their downy fluffy layer, and some of them are even heavier than their parents. Their parents have done a very good job of feeding them this year, and the parents will have two chicks, and we've been watching the chicks chasing their parents for even more food. They're still hungry, and it's just funny to watch them run around after each other.
It's very funny. The whole deal is funny.
And all that chasing is important to strengthen them up as they enter the sea for the first time and run the gauntlet to try and pass the leopard seals to make their way out to sea.
good morning again on board the National Geographic Orion. It's Sunday, February 11th, and it's 7:15 in the morning. Currently we're entering Charcot Bay, and up ahead is Lindblad Cove.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Here we are doing one of my favorite things in the world to do. And let's bring you over to this gorgeous iceberg right here. It couldn't be closer, couldn't be better. All right, so I've been telling you all about tabular bergs. Who can tell me which side was the top?
Oh my.
Yeah, what side was the top?
See the lines in
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
these all tabular bergs.
Yes. These are all tabular bergs. So again, imagine all this as snowflakes. Those little things that melt in your hand that can be this powerful.
It's amazing. Change every time you go around one, you see different lines and different colors. And then they move up and down in the water. It's beautiful.
Oh, I just love the magic of them, that they came from something so ephemeral as a snowflake and create this powerful force that can carve mountains and reshape the land and change even some of the currents of rivers and oceans. They're just incredible. They're so beautiful. The different textures, the colors, the shapes. It's just about every color of blue you can imagine down here. And they're moving, and they're melting, and they're turning over. What more could you ask for? What is it?
Beef soup.
Beautiful, beautiful sculptures, beautiful light, beautiful ice, blue ice, black ice, white ice. Mush was perfect. Thank you.
Oh my god. Oh my god, you can see it. It's just right here.
We're transiting through the Lemaire Channel right now, and it's very Antarctic-y out. There's some low clouds and a little bit of snow flurries and a little bit of wind, but we're watching humpback whales and penguins jumping on icebergs, and it's a beautiful landscape this morning. The cliffs tower over each side of this very narrow channel, and it makes for very dramatic navigation as we pass through this morning.
Here on board the National Geographic Orion, myself and Robert get to dive in the Antarctic. When we dive, we usually just go straight to the seabed, and then we get to see loads of sea stars, echinoderms, sponges, some really incredibly colourful life, especially when you see the black and white on the surface, just to get down and film all these incredible colours underwater is a real privilege. On the surface, everyone sees the very enigmatic animals such as the penguins and the seals, and they're all often very active and boisterous. But on the seabed, most things move incredibly slowly, just because the water is cold, and to move in such cold water is really expensive, energetically expensive for them. So most of the time we go down, we just see beautiful things that don't move very fast. Most of the times we go to Brown Bluff, it's like soup, really green because of all the plankton in the water. And the plankton is important because that's what keeps all the animals alive. But we managed to get down to 285 feet, and it's covered in life. It's also, I find it incredible that we're down at almost 100 meters and the water is still so blue. All the sediment you can see is marine snow, so that just falls through the water and feeds all of these organisms down here. When we show the footage during recap, it's always really rewarding to see how enthusiastic people are when they see what we see underwater. I think most people are surprised there's such a rich habitat down there.
Well, I think that it's something unique to National Geographic trips, that it really enhances the feeling of where you are and the remoteness, because we of course have no concept of what it's like down there.
So today has been a great day to celebrate the explorer Jean-Baptiste Charcot. This morning we were at Booth Island. I got my start working in Antarctica, working for Oceanites, and this was their summer base camp right here on Peterman Island. They would keep a team of penguin counters here for about 4 weeks at a time during the Antarctic summer. Oceanites was involved in a lot of research about whether or not the wildlife on the habitually visited landings in Antarctica were going to have any effect on the wildlife. They were concerned to see that tourists might be having an effect, so they did about a 15-year study to find out if the penguins were going to be disturbed by visiting tourists, and the results were pretty conclusive that the penguins don't care.
Okay, we haven't even had breakfast yet. Just after dawn, we were cruising along in the Gerlach Strait. It was a little bit foggy, ice all around, and we spotted killer whales, lovely and calm. We spotted about 3 miles away.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here on the further to the right, a little bit more at 2 o'clock, is little baby killer whales. Aww. And then see the little tiny fins? And then they'll often separate a little bit from the larger males when they're hunting, but it looks like they're all going in the same direction, so. Oh, wow. Yeah, see there's the larger male over there. Oh, yeah. Yep, and you can tell the difference. The fin size is really distinctive.
And next thing we knew, they were pursuing a whole flock of penguins, and they chased the Gentoo penguins and separated one off from the flock, and then there was a kill. So they were pursuing this penguin for a good 10 minutes, I'd say, and eventually caught it and and fed on it right in front of us.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I reckon that those penguins are regretting giving up flying though, Sarah. I'd rather be a killer whale, I think. Jeez. Trouble.
This is fun. I'm looking for carnage. Oh, it's amazing.
Well, that's actually the first time I've actually seen killer whale action. I've seen them sort of lazily go by, but actually to see them on the chase, that's kind of real safari stuff.
It's not something people see every day. That's probably the closest I've been to a penguin kill.
This is the little whale.
They're right here. You feel like you could touch them. You don't need a camera. This is mind-blowing. There's so many killer whales out here I can't describe them, including babies.
Look at all of them. Wow. 4, 5, 6.
There was a part where there was a mum and its calf, which is probably quite a big calf, and it came right by the ship. Pretty amazing.
They're surrounding our ship.
How are you doing? Great, thanks. Welcome to Base A. You have the museum straight ahead, and I do recommend starting in there, and the small post office and the gift shop to your right.
Thank you.
Here we are at the Bransfield House. As you look around, you feel like you could be cooking and making meals with the food in the tins that are around us, and also with this old stove and some of the utensils that you find here. But this was a base for Operation Tamarind, which was from 1944 to 1946 during the Second World War. So this place was then abandoned and taken over by the British Antarctic Trust, that have restored this place and also supply the lovely ladies here who give us so much information and run the bookstore and the post office. But today, this is the southernmost post office in the world, and you can drop off postcards, stamp them with a stamp from Port Lockroy, and have them sent back to your loved ones, although you never know exactly when they're going to arrive.
It's our last day in Antarctica, and I just am almost sad to leave. I love this place so much. To be able to come back to this amazing place and photograph, there's so much to photograph here. It's absolutely one of the most beautiful places in the world, a place that I love and I dearly always want to come back to. If we're going to take one thing away from this trip, it would really be that this is the land before man and time has touched. It's life as it always was and will always hopefully continue to be as long as we preserve it well. It's a special place where you really can get in touch with these amazing animals and these amazing, scenery. So it's an untouched land that I just think is very special, one of the most special places in the world.
Hands up, baby, hands up. Fia. Kan, we're following the cat. It's not going well.